We're all just a bunch of dorks doing a podcast. I love it for us.
It's a miracle we get anything done.
It pops. Wait till you taste one, dearie.
Hi, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Poison Apple Podcast, where we are discussing Fantasia, where entertainment and creativity dance their way right out the door. So let the music serenade you to sleep. Let's go. My name is Joey, and I'm joined by David.
Hey, howdy, hey, everybody.
And Gavin.
How's it going?
And Hannah.
Hello, beautiful humans.
And Jenny.
Hey, y'all.
And if you were watching on YouTube, you may notice that Hannah is living it up today.
Grand Flow life.
Ooh. Bougie.
They don't even allow me to step foot in that resort.
I'm still cracking up at your intro. That was good. That was good.
I saw David and I was like,
There's no lies. There's no lies. Literally, I texted you guys the other day because when Jenny asked if we were going to have time to do this today, and I said we were going to have plenty of time and you'll have time to watch paint dry after and it'd be more entertaining.
thank you.
I'm not going to hold back. I hate this movie.
So are we jumping into
Thank you,
first thoughts?
thank you. Okay, please. I hated it. I hated it.
Hey.
Oh my God.
Before we get into that, we have to know how everyone has been since the last time we have talked. David, how have you
I've been
been?
looking forward to this. This is
Honestly, I've been looking forward to this all week. It's had its ups, mostly downs, and knowing specifically, Joey, your thoughts on Fantasia going in, and then kind of getting everybody else's live updates as they were watching it. I've been super excited for this one.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Gavin?
hey, it's been a week. Tuesday was Monday, Wednesday was Monday, Thursday was Monday, Friday was Monday. It's just been a week full of Mondays, but we're here. We were looking forward to this. I'm ready to have a debate.
Hannah,
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. Thank you.
hey, you're in the bubble. How much better can it be?
Literally.
And Jenny, speaking of the bubble, is about to be in the bubble.
Yes.
Hi. Only a few more days. I'm going to be in the bubble on Monday morning, and I cannot wait.
As Pinocchio premieres to the world, Jenny will be in the Magic Kingdom. Well, not the Magic Kingdom bubble. What am I talking about? The Walt Disney World bubble. My week.
The Magic Kingdom on Tuesday.
My week has just flown by. Friday snuck up on me out of nowhere. I wasn't even done watching this movie till today. But with that, we'll get into our initial thoughts. First off, do we think Hannah has seen this before? She let the cat out of the bag last week, so I'm going to say no.
That's a hard no.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I hate this movie. I just do. It might have the worst opening.
You don't
segment.
say.
It might have the worst opening segment in Disney history. I also hate the fact that this is an official Walt Disney Animation Studio feature film, and there's so much non-animation in it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I will give in its favor, because David, you had mentioned something about the message and theme. I'm looking at it in the way that the message of the movie is like the beauty and power of music.
Okay.
But I hate this movie.
Same.
That being said, I hate this movie. I want to hear Hannah's thoughts too.
No, I thought it was awful. I genuinely, it was like 17 minutes in. I paused it. I literally looked at my husband. I was like, please, I can't do this. And I finished watching it today, and it genuinely like felt a little torturous to me. I could not enjoy it. And I'm so with Joey on this one. I hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David, Gavin, Jenny, who's up?
Honestly, I kind of want everybody else to go first.
I mean, for me personally, like I kind of said last week, it as a musician, I definitely had aspects of it that I did like, because it was a lot of, you know, classical songs that I love and recognize, and so seeing the artwork put together with it, with the animation, was really beautiful for a lot of parts of it. It's not your standard typical Disney movie, so it's hard to compare it to those. But in its own aspect, it was a really like well put together movie for what it was trying to accomplish.
If you say so.
Random
You go
people.
ahead.
I am wearing a Walt Disney World jersey specifically for one reason. Can you see
Oh
that?
my
Oscar
goodness.
Mickey.
Can you
Yep.
see that?
Yep.
I loved it. I loved this movie through and through, from start to finish. I loved this movie. This was Walt Disney Animation Studios establishing itself, being able to do both cinema and movies. And yes, there's a difference. They stepped foot in the grandiose, expressive, artistic, cinematic experience, and it went above and beyond the children's storytelling, and used the expression of music, the emotion of music, the um, artistry of music, the hard work and dedication of music, and expressed it using animation in an amazing and beautiful way.
Honestly, I'm glad that I went last because it makes me feel like that I've sort of put myself on the side of people that actually did enjoy this movie because I'm also on that side. I'll be real going into like I didn't watch this movie a lot as a kid, and I will actually concede to a point that Joey has made once upon a time that Ivy and I have put this movie on before to fall asleep to. It is an excellent movie to lull yourself asleep to. However, when you're sitting there and you're watching it for the music and for the art and the animation that goes into it, it really was a fun watch to me. The animation, especially for I can think of three pieces off the top of my head that to me are just super iconic in the ways of Disney animation. And then pairing that, like Jenny said, with classical music that I feel like a lot of people recognize was super interesting in seeing how the animators kind of went around that music. Um, and there's another thing that I had to. To me, I had a lot of fun with since I hadn't watched this movie in a while. I had fun recognizing the music as it also plays in like the resort TV. I don't know if anybody else knows what I'm talking about, but like the slide as it goes from park to park, talking about the hours and everything. I feel like 90% of that music is from Fantasia, and I legitimately didn't realize it until I watched this movie, and I was like, oh, okay, so Disney World just really likes Fantasia.
All right.
And
So
I'll say this: the it was labeled as anthology, right? It's not your traditional movie. So if you go in expecting it to be entertaining, expecting traditionally entertaining, expecting it to be um, captivating in the sense of like the story is going to pull you in. There's dialogue and acting, and there's none of that, right? Um, so for anybody, and I think this goes back to the age-old argument of, and this is why I mentioned it, what is the difference between cinema and movies? And this maybe was could be considered to some to be a little pretentious, right? Because it is dabbling in the like it's going to an art museum type film. You know what I mean? You don't go to an art museum for entertainment. You go for um, the captivating beauty of it and the being awestruck feeling. Um, so this was kind of a look what we can do type movie, I think. But man, they pulled it off and they did a great job.
yeah. So sorry that I expect my movies to be entertaining. With that, we'll get into the yes and yikes of the movie. I have it broken down by section. Do you guys have a problem with going by it section by section?
No,
I
that
love
makes
that
it
idea.
All
easier.
right. So the first section was whatever that weird sky was.
Thank you.
Yes, the yes moments. I have one. The animation is all right, I guess. Nothing too impressive. A still background with flashing lights.
Literally.
Anyone have anything else to add?
I mean, I really like this one. To me, this one actually reminded me of
Lost my
and
headphones.
I feel glitch. Pardon our pixie dust. Um,
Aw.
but and anybody else who is in like marching band or concert band, I feel like can maybe back me up on this one. But
Yeah.
to me, it reminded me a lot of sitting through like concert band performances in like high school because you're not allowed to talk to people around you. You're not allowed to be on your phone. You just kind of have to sit there and listen to the music, and you get to kind of turn your brain off. And it's exactly like the guy said at the beginning. It just sort of creates these masses of color and shapes in your head, and it can bring up imagery, memories, just kind of based off of how the music makes you feel. And it's very situational. And it's very personal to the listener. So I thought what was kind of cool about that segment was it kind of feels like we got a little bit of a window into the animators, because I actually did read that Walt gave them the most freedom with that piece because of what this one was supposed to be. So for me, that was this piece just in general was in the yes column.
Yeah, for me, I loved the incorporation of like whenever the bows hit the strings, you can see like a subtle light difference in the sky, and it's matching the pattern of the bow movements. And that was fascinating to me. I think that considering what animation was back then, um, it's unbelievable how much effort that probably took, even though it was subtle on screen and it doesn't seem like a big deal. Those are usually the hardest things to animate, right? Thank you for the thumbs up, David. I appreciate that.
I don't know how that
It
happened.
popped up on your
Yeah, it
screen.
did.
That's a real thumbs up.
But I just thought that like David said, well
Yeah.
said, eloquently said, perfectly said. It takes each individual to their own space. You are allowed to experience it the way that you see and feel. And I think that sort of expression and that sort of artistry is brilliant.
I mean, I love that you guys loved it. I think for me personally, I was just like, so nothing's happening. um, and honestly, like, I just couldn't get into it, but I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed it. Jenny, what are your thoughts?
Did you have any yes before I get into my yikes?
I mean, I just like the, just the aspect of how they explained it beforehand, because, like, for me
Yeah.
personally, I don't know if it does just create this whole, like, masterpiece, like, in my mind visually. It's hard I could never put that on a piece of paper or, make that in
Aw.
any type of animation. And so it was cool to see that someone was able to really, like, captivate what was actually happening kind of in their mind while hearing that music. So I thought that was really cool.
Side note, I accidentally hit a button on my keyboard, which apparently stops the recording. So 2 seconds of your little speech there is gone to the ether. So sorry about that. It was only 2 seconds.
Who?
Jenny.
Rude.
Yeah.
I think Jenny starts with the next one.
There you go.
So, yikes. The very beginning, when there was no animation happening, when it was just playing with lights and shadows, I guess that was cool, but not for an animated movie. You're getting no points for that. That was just a waste of time. And then, just speaking on music in general, I guess, I don't know how relevant the orchestra is these days. Barely at all. I like some orchestra music when it's in the right setting. In a full-length feature film animated movie is not it. That's all. That's all I have for the first section. And yikes.
I'm always down for a full orchestra.
This is going to be a consistent for me throughout the film, but I'm going to respectfully disagree with that opinion, but also with what Jenny said about the guy coming out and explaining it.
Yeah.
I think this guy coming out and doing that like expose before each scene is just kind of draining. Like there were times where he was humorous. There were times where I see it was relevant. I could see the introduction of it and saying like you can let your mind wander free, and like I can see having that. But also, if this is meant to be a piece that is supposed to show your brilliance and mastery in animation, let the brilliance of mastery of animation speak for itself, and don't have somebody stepping up on a lectern and talking
Every
about
single time.
yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
And then
Like I don't want to
having
be
an
lectured
intermission.
to.
I was about to bring up the intermission because I feel like that counts as an actual piece, but that actually made it into my yes column because I thought that was some of the funniest.
It was.
Like,
Okay, I get
like,
that.
I was taking notes like we will now take a 15-minute intermission. I'm like,
And then he just walks
it's a
off
movie.
stage.
So,
And then he just walks off stage.
but
We're
there
gonna
was
take a
a title
15-minute.
card. There was a title card when they came back. So was there actually a 15-minute intermission when this aired in theaters?
I don't know.
Probably.
You know,
It
But,
was
like,
the longest.
imagine in any other Disney movie. Like imagine halfway through Snow White,
Yeah.
like they're just getting ready. Like the dwarves make their way back in, and Snow White calls them all out, and then they all look at the camera, and like that's the only line that Dopey has. We will now take a 15-minute intermission,
That would be
and
funny.
they all just disperse. Like, what?
Oh my gosh.
What do you mean?
But I see the point in it though, given what this was. Like it was different than anything before. So you want to
Yeah.
give the audience a break.
It was actually playing, so you got to get it over.
But
Like if you
also
were
like
actually
yeah, but
Yes.
so it's still the longest Disney animated film to date.
Felt it.
So
felt like it.
we are not going to get away from this. This is
Felt every second of it.
Second, yep.
The count of the movie is just going to keep getting higher and higher between these two. It's like it starts at 2, and then it's going to turn into an 8-hour movie.
But I think that's actually I had that in my yes column as well because I was like, man, this is hilarious. Like, but also kind of brilliant given what this was and when it came out and the fact that it's the longest animated Disney film. Like, yeah, I get it. You know, you don't want to exhaust your audience. I needed the 15 minutes. I'll admit it. And I don't. But that's the thing is like I don't think that there is a. I don't think that putting this on because it's good to put you to sleep and putting this on and recognizing that it's good, I don't think they have to exist in different planes. I think that you can put something on to put you to sleep, your comfort movie, your comfort show, or just a show that's good at soothing you. And then also recognize its beauty and its just overall masterful expression. I mean, I think that you could do both.
I will make a proclamation here that unless I start yet another Disney rewatch series, Fantasia will never be on in my house again.
Same.
I'm going to start putting it on to fall asleep when Chrissy's out of town for months at a time.
So next up is Nutcracker, if no one had anything else on that section. I love the Nutcracker. It's a good song. I can't complain
It wasn't
about the
bad.
Nutcracker.
Yeah.
The animation was at least doing something this time. The dandelion was cool. I enjoyed the little mushrooms.
Yeah.
The flowers falling into the water was pretty cool. The spinning of them and the way they turned into dancers, pretty impressive stuff. I feel like Walt was very impressed with the way that he animated water because now this is 3 movies in a row with heavy influence of water.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's very impressive. So if you can figure that out, like, I feel like you should show that off because that is
Yeah,
very
like-
impressive.
That's what you can do, I guess.
Eventually, I caught on to the fact that it was a changing of the seasons story. I was all right, and the ice fairies were cool.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I wrote down too.
Take it away, people who like this movie.
Jenny, you lost your 2 seconds. You started off.
I mean, Nutcracker is a classic. I feel like whether you enjoy classical music or not, you know the Nutcracker suite, hopefully. So I feel like that was probably more relatable than some of the other pieces. And so I thought it was really well done. There was actually some of the animation, I can't remember like the exact part of the sequence that it was in, but it kind of reminded me of the animation for Be Our Guest from Beauty and the Beast. And
I
so
can
I thought
understand
that was kind of cool. Like, I don't know if there was any kind of inspiration for when they did that, but I saw it and I thought it was cool. But I love the Nutcracker. I thought they did a really fantastic job with that one, just with all the different aspects and kind of taking you through that story. So I really enjoyed it. It was probably one of my, like, on like my like ranking of them, I would put it higher in the tier.
It's number 2 for me.
Yeah. So. Same.
So it was up there. I liked it.
Jenny, while you were talking, I was trying to think of what it would have been in that sequence that would have reminded you of Be Our Guest, and I think I had a part pop into my head that I think it was the I'm trying to remember like what like country representatives it technically was that would have been dancing during that part, but I think it was like the Russians or something like that, or it was like the dandelions like going up and down because they were doing this like up and back and over thing that it reminded me like what the plates and the cups were doing.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Okay, glad you saw that too.
It's like, no, like there had to have been like a specific thing, and I was like, oh no, yeah, she's onto something.
Thank you. I feel validated.
No, because I really like the animation with that sequence too. I'll set up the yikes for this round because for me, my yikes is really just the fact that I've heard the Nutcracker suite so many times over the years that like to me that was like my only yikes for it is that for me it was almost too approachable because I hear it every single year around the holidays. Especially as a kid, we would always go and see the Nutcracker at like our local theater, so it was always something that we would do. But I really did like the animation for it. Like I said, the dandelions, the different fairies, and the mushrooms. I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, and you're going to hear this in nearly every breakdown of every sequence, but the transitions in this film, oh my God. The transition, it doesn't matter how much you don't like the movie, the transitions were incredible.
Flawless.
The thing that I will say that is yikes for me on this section is, and I'm pretty sure it's a section. This is the one that included the fairies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any mythical creature in this film was animated in such a weird way. It's like almost like what's the like the flawless, no hardly any defining features, just very odd, right? It reminded me a lot of the animation of Snow White and of the Blue Fairy that we talked about, but like worse. So that is a yikes for me. Is just like they look a little too just off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I would put a finger on it. Piece that the animation otherwise, anything that was an inanimate object that they animated in this film was beautiful. So yeah, it just threw me off because I was like, all this effort to make a flower look like the most realistic flower I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And then there's this fairy, and it's just kind of like, yikes. So that made the yikes list because it literally made me go, yikes.
So Hannah, did you have any yeses before I get into my yikes?
This brand, sorry, this movie literally like fried my brain, but I literally wrote fairies dance somewhat cool.
I feel it. I feel it.
Well, first of all,
of-
that is flawless.
A lot of my notes are like that too, but I'm cleaning them up as I say them because I was so annoyed that.
I had to read that for what I wrote because it was too good not
Oh,
to.
boy.
Oh man!
But that was the gist
Yeah.
of that.
So my first note for the yikes, it's not really a yikes, but it wasn't a yes. Is the Nutcracker being a Christmas song a new thing? Was it
I
just a
thought
song
it was
back in
true.
the day?
He acknowledged in his little whatever the hell it is
Oh, I
every
never
single
listened
time.
to a word.
Mhm.
He acknowledged that, well, typically a Christmas song.
Ah, well, I guess
Like,
I should have
he
listened
did-
to
okay.
it.
He did mention that. We're going to do it a little differently. And so, I mean, again,
Mhm.
probably useful in that scenario to have somebody come out on stage and say that.
Yeah.
I
Because
hate
otherwise,
it.
I
people
think
that
also-
approach it very easily as a Christmas song are going to wonder why there's
But
flowers
I
and
just
mushrooms and fairies dancing around during Christmas time.
I just hated him, honestly. Like, they're just...
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't, like I said,
Mhm.
I didn't listen to a single word he said, so I
Nope.
missed that.
I think he also said that like at the time it wasn't performed as often anymore, but like people should still recognize the music. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's interesting because it's performed every single year now,
So
everywhere.
I made that
So-
note last time I watched this movie. That
Yeah.
it's funny how it was popular and then faded out around this time, and now it's popular again to where it's just everywhere again.
Mhm.
The
Yeah, I thought that was
Nutcracker, you mean?
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But moving on, the angelfish. I don't even remember the angelfish, but I said I don't like that angelfish. I felt like this section went far too long. The underwater sequence was not needed.
Oh, that angelfish. Okay, yeah, no, yeah.
To be
I'm with you.
honest, I didn't really understand the point of the dancing vegetables. Or vegetation, sorry, not vegetables. And then when you think the song is over, nope, more fairies.
More fairies.
And none of the fairies
Oh.
are wearing any
Started,
clothes.
man.
That was interesting. And the song is still going. And the fairies using snowflakes as tutus, awful. I did not like that look. The snowflakes looked like a different animation style. That's all I got for yikes.
I love that.
Anyone else?
All right.
You got anything, David?
David
No,
said that he was bound out.
I gave my yikes. While I enjoyed the Nutcracker as a kid, you listen to it enough times, and it's hard for it to not be.
Mhm.
So there was a
Yeah.
lot of blurred lines between flowers and fairies and Christmas.
So,
Yeah, literally.
moving on to my favorite sequence, the Sorcerer's Apprentice. I've got to imagine this is everyone's.
Oh, yep.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I should actually go change that. Hold on.
Oh, David's got to get something. While he's gone, Yinsid was pretty cool. Fun fact, if you didn't know, the wizard's name was Yinsid because it's Disney spelled backwards. Apparently every Disney adult knows that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until I saw that in a
Really?
podcast.
What?
What did David get? I missed it. Oh,
The
nice.
hat. Aw.
This is my pride and joy, my Walt Disney Imagineering baseball hat, yo.
That's what this is.
I don't have anything
Yep.
from this movie.
Little baby Funko.
The
Fantasia might be on that fan, but I don't care enough to get it.
I have lots of Sorcerer Mickey stuff. He's one of my favorites.
Speaking of Sorcerer Mickey is by far the best non-original version of Mickey Mouse, I think. Steamboat Willie probably has a claim at that spot, but I think Sorcerer Mickey's probably more universally loved than Steamboat Willie.
I love the fact that it wasn't intended, or it wasn't originally Mickey that was
Yeah.
supposed to play the Sorcerer's Apprentice. I love that.
Mhm.
But I love the fact that there was such a connection to Mickey Mouse that they were like, we're going to agree to disagree, and we're going to just go with my idea. Because originally it was supposed to be Dopey.
Yep.
Yep.
That was going to be the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Really?
Popular.
Which is
Dopey-
funny when you look at his animation because you can definitely see Dopey in the way that he moves and with the robe and the shoes.
Yep.
That it's like, no,
Yes.
that was definitely supposed to be Dopey. They just changed the face and the color scheme.
Yep. So Dopey.
Yeah.
I love that.
Following the release of Snow White, Dopey became unbelievably popular to where he was supposed to be in this role, but Walt Disney got scared that he was overtaking Mickey Mouse, and Mickey Mouse had not been in anything in a while, so Walt said, put Mickey in it.
Yep.
Okay, but just imagine if imagine Dopey in Mickey's role for
Imagine
Fantasmic. I just
Dopey
need
as
everyone
the
to think-
mascot for Disney.
Ooh.
But no, I love the fact that it was supposed to be Dopey, and so they felt, Walt felt so connected to Mickey and so passionate about having Mickey in this role. But the robe and the shoes, as you were saying, are homage to the Seven Dwarves. I think that that's awesome. I love the fact in this that throughout you really get a sense of how small Mickey Mouse actually is. Like he's using the big book as a flotation device as the place floods. Like that's just so, like I looked at my wife and I was like, you really get to see like what the actual proportions of Mickey are compared to all of the other things, because while on screen it's usually just him or just him and Minnie Mouse or just him, Minnie Mouse and Pluto. Like you just don't get the sense of his actual size. And so I absolutely loved that. I thought it was adorable. But beyond that, just the innocence of Mickey Mouse and his facial expressions throughout this entire sequence. Like the wizard coming out and being just absolutely pissed at everything that Mickey was doing, and he's just kind of like,
So
like, I'm cute though, and it just made me laugh because it was adorable. And this was the first time for me watching it, and my wife was like, "You're gonna love Sorcerer Mickey after this even more than you already do." And like I love the dream sequence where he's like falling asleep in the chair and then he wakes up and he's still doing the motions, so it's still going on, and he realizes he's flooding the joint. Like I thought all of this was absolutely brilliant. I had no yikes in this sequence. And I'm going to say this now because this is where I first noticed it, but this was the first Disney film we've watched, animation film, where I had zero issue with any of the wide shots.
all right.
I brought it up the last two episodes. Snow White, wide shots were awful. Pinocchio, wide shots were awful. This was the first movie where it was wide shots, and I was like, that's actually gorgeous. Like, that's actually very pleasant. That I can, like, I like this. And this was the thing that the sequence that turned that opinion around, and made me realize, like, I got no yikes in this. I love this, including the wide shots.
So the brooms carrying the water, I think, is a pretty iconic visual.
Yep.
They aren't they in one of the resorts?
All-Star Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mickey controlling the water, like doing the conductor thing and the water splashing. Iconic scenes. Let's see here. Loved that the brooms just kept filling water. They didn't care.
Yes.
Also,
They like
loved-
literally had.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, when they were literally carrying like the pails of water into the water, like they were like so committed to it.
Yeah, I also loved that Mickey was like, you know what? I don't want to waste any time trying to figure out how to stop this. I'm just gonna freaking murk this dude.
Yes. Yep.
The Mickey
no
Alive count is.
And this one was a good length. This one I did not ever press pause to see how much longer there was left in the movie.
Same.
This is the only section where that didn't happen. Well, and the first one. The first one would have been extreme if I did it in the first one. But Nutcracker, I definitely pressed pause a couple times. But it was after this. Well, I'll save that. Does anyone have anything good they want to say?
We got some people in this podcast that are drinking the haterade, man. Not a sponsor.
Jenny, Hannah, David.
I will say, going off of what Joey said, what I really liked is when Mickey goes after the broom with the axe. The brooms are like, "Nah, we're coming back, and we're coming back like in full form." And they just multiply, and they're like, "You're gonna get this water today." Like, no. And what gets me though is he's sitting in the chair and he's just sleeping, not knowing all the chaos going on around him. And I just like, I really did like this one. I had no yikes, all yeses, but like it was very comedic to me as well. So like love this one.
Before Jenny or David talk, I'm just going to say I have yikes for every single segment. So,
Boo!
Haterade. PM.
Also,
Yeah,
because
go
I
ahead.
feel like pure like panic of Mickey because he was taking one pail of water and tossing it out as a multitude. It just panned to the brooms. They just all dumped at the
Yeah.
same time, and I feel that panic for him because like he can only do so much, and it is not working. So I also just love the expressions on Mickey with everything that happened, and when the
Yes.
sorcerer came down and he like realized like was there, and he's like, oh no, like he's seen it, like it's too late, like I didn't get fixed in time. And then when he was just like, but I'm cute though,
Yes,
like that's
literally.
so Mickey. And so like even when he was like, okay, like I'll go over here, and like the sorcerer not having it, he was like, no, like this is not cute or funny, like you actually messed up. But just his expressions, like you could actually feel them, and I thought they did a fantastic job with animating him to where you actually felt that.
Yeah.
And the one thing I know this happened after, but we mentioned, or Joey, I think it was you that mentioned the use of light and shadow, and how you saw that as pointless, leading into it all. But then Mickey Mouse coming up and interacting with the conductor
that was
after,
cool.
like that, like, how? If that was like, okay, this is the first time rewatching these films. This is the first time that I've sat there and gone, how'd they do that? You know what I mean? And which I was like, that's okay. They did good. This was a great section.
Yeah, that was cool.
David, do you have any nice things to say, or did you already go? I can't remember.
I haven't gone, but I could have my own podcast of nice things to say about this segment. I loved this segment as a kid. If it wasn't Buzz Lightyear, it was Sorcerer Mickey was my favorite character growing up, hands down. You guys had talked about about Mickey's expressions in this segment. To me, Yensid's expressions were on point. Like this man pulled no punches and said no words the entire segment. I actually read when I was looking up some fun facts that like his like little raised eyebrow that he kept shooting at Mickey like close to the end of the movie. That was sort of like an animator like tongue-in-cheek joke. Apparently, that was a very famous Walt expression in the studio.
Well,
He did.
I'm pretty sure that they used Yensid as like they based him off.
They
of
modeled
Walt,
him after Walt. Yeah,
and that's why his name is Yensid.
super cool stuff. And then we talked about the conductor and Mickey interaction. I know this is several movies down the road, like probably to the point of it being like close to next year. But in Fantasia 2000, when they do the same thing again, where Mickey goes and shakes the hand of the conductor, and that is what I recognize that segment with. But Disney fanatics can pick out that that was definitely Walt's voice doing Mickey in that little interaction. If you go back and listen to archive footage, like that was Walt Disney doing that voice, and I thought that was super cool.
I forgot that there's a second Fantasia. You just ruined my.
Oh yeah, buckle up, man. You're not out of the woods yet.
I've heard that it's worse.
What's that?
I've heard that the second one's worse.
A lot of people didn't enjoy it as much as the other one, but
Went over as well
I'm
as
going out of town
expected.
that day.
Yeah.
Yikes.
He goes and checks the calendars, like how far in advance.
Yikes. I don't have much. One isn't even due to the sequence itself. It is leading up to it, as Gavin has said, and I have said. Why did we need the dude to explain what was happening in this one? Just get
Yeah.
on with it.
Sit your ball down.
And the other one is, for some reason, I really liked when the room was flooded, but when they showed the window, as soon as that happened, I was like, if this water gets higher than that windowsill, it's going to take me out of this scene because that makes no sense. And it got higher than the windowsill. But that's just a little thing. And I'm guessing no one else has anything bad to say about this section, so we'll move on to my least favorite one, the dinosaurs. So, yeah.
Hannah should go first.
And say Hannah lit up like a Christmas tree
Well,
over there.
we do have to say nice things first.
Yeah, I like the dinos.
Oh.
Yeah.
Joey just assuming that everybody got bad things to say about this movie.
I didn't love it, but I liked it.
I will say that the only part of the orchestras that I liked in this movie is when the dude knocked over his equipment and they decided to leave that in the movie. That was funny.
Yeah, Hannah, what you got?
Yeah.
Oh. Honestly, I liked it because it literally started off like with the galaxy, and then it was like, you know, like all the little things in the water, and then what they turned into, and they grew legs, and they turned into dinosaurs, and I was like, okay, like I like space and how everything came to be, so like I can get behind this. So it wasn't awful, and I was kind of like, you know what? But then here comes old T-Rexy, and he's trying to be all destructive and hurt the other dinos, and I didn't like that part. But we'll get into that later.
I wasn't even trying from what I saw.
Yeah,
So I thought it was funny when the conductor called them bullies and gangsters in his little introduction. I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh my goodness.
I thought they did a pretty good job with the flowing lava. They've actually doing some world building this time, so that's cool. And the underwater stuff for the first couple seconds was cool until they got to the fish. That's all I got to say about this. I got plenty to say in the next. Yeah.
I think they did it really well with the storytelling aspect of this. With
Yes.
setting that up, and again, like the transitions, and really just taking you through the different time periods as the time moved on. You know, like you said, like the lava was really cool, and the way, I mean, of course the music's matching up with the animation, but like as the actual volcanoes were erupting and like how the music matched up with that, I thought was really cool. So I really liked this because it was an actual like whole concept that was, you know, very easy to put together, and a good like story that you know, just flowed really well.
I agree. I think the storytelling in this one absolutely carried it. And to me, I think this was one where I know we've all had mixed thoughts on the guy at the beginning explaining what's going on. But I feel like this was actually one where it could have been one or the other. He could have not explained what was going on, and we would have 1000% been able to follow the story because of just how well the animators matched it up with the music. But I also kind of appreciated it going in because I didn't, not to skip ahead a step, but I did find this piece to be a little bit longer than the other ones. So knowing going in that we're covering billions of years of life and existence and the formation of things, I felt like that explanation kind of already answers the like, why is this still happening? And it's because we're covering billions of years of time, and I just thought it was very well done with the storytelling.
Yeah, I would agree. The storytelling in this was incredible. The transitions, again, just like blew my mind. The sound synchronization, not only from what you see, you also hear, but also the chasing sequence with the T-Rex. I loved that. I put this one word on my, and I probably butchered the spelling, but regardless, the Stegosaurus running away had me rolling. I mean, not only was it well done, but just like I think at one point there was even kind of like a as it was running away, and I was
Like a
like,
Scooby Doo running
yeah,
sound
yeah,
effect or
it's
something.
poor little short legs, man, trying to run from this T-Rex. I was like, oh man, it reminded me of my dachshund, so I might have an affinity for it just for that reason. But it was just, it was adorable. It was well done. The storytelling was tremendous. My yikes for it was like, why do each of these creatures have different color eyes? Like
Ooh.
it's like the T-Rex had red, and the Brontosaurus had green. The Stegosaurus had yellow. Like, why can't we just like? It doesn't need to be that intense. Like, do the white, and so I didn't know, nor did I get necessarily the purpose of that. But it carried over to the some other portions of the film as well that I was like,
Yeah.
mm. Um, and then I honestly, again, did not like the guy coming out on stage and talking about it. I think it's hilarious that he referred to them as gangsters and
Bullies.
bullies. Like, I thought that was hilarious, but also, I wouldn't maybe have a problem with things that he said or him coming out and talking if it wasn't 5 minutes long before they started the sequence.
Yeah.
Coming out and saying a few words and kind of outlining what the intention is, cool, but it was very overdone. Let the animation speak for itself. But the transitions, the fact that it went from the start of the universe all the way up, like it was really, really well done. And coming out of the water and you see the fish growing legs, it was tremendous.
Yeah.
But that Stegosaurus will always be with me.
So you bring
always
up the guy talking. I think it's very interesting that this was made before the asteroid theory came about. So he was talking about a drought wiping out the dinosaurs. And I thought that was interesting. But you guys ready for my yikes?
Lay it on us.
All right. So my yikes for the dinosaur section. This section is so unbelievably boring that I fell asleep. This is the section I fall asleep at. I didn't fall asleep this time, but it was so boring that I started hitting the 10-second skip, and I started hitting it and hitting it and hitting it and hitting it, and I could
not Joey exposing himself. Come on now.
Right.
I couldn't. It was so bad. It's so boring.
How can you say you don't like it if you've never really even given it a chance? Like,
I fell asleep the first time and I couldn't get through it the second time. It's awful.
The Stegosaurus, man. The Stegosaurus.
Why did we spend so much time in space? Wasted so much time in space. And I looked at the time to see how close I was to the end, and there was an hour and 20 minutes left. And I was like, there was no way there's an hour and 20 minutes left of this movie. I didn't like the music in this section in the slightest. I thought the visuals of the volcanoes were awful, especially when they went off at the same time. I did not like the water and wind section. And then they brought back the stupid Snow White animation that I hate. The water Snow White animation that I hated.
I knew you were going to say that.
The smoke transitions during the underwater segment was really weird. The idea of what dinosaurs looked like has stuck with us for a very long time, huh? Because now we know what dinosaurs actually looked like, but we just assumed that they looked like this and then just stuck with it. All right. That's not a fault of the movie. That's just creativity of humankind, I guess. Who doesn't like a dinosaur fight scene? Me, when you are listening to a super boring song and it is super anticlimactic and is only 15 seconds long.
Joey.
And that's not the end. I thought that was the end of the segment.
you gotta leave some stuff on the floor, man.
I really wanted to just stop watching the movie at this segment. I didn't want to finish watching the movie after watching this segment.
I've never hated anything that much.
A Bug's Life. I walked out of A Bug's Life. We've had this conversation.
I guess this is a perfect opportunity for me to say when I do my 10 category rankings, I did it for each segment and then did averages to figure out my score. So this one got very low scores across the board.
Go figure. You don't say.
So the next segment is the soundtrack. I have nothing good to say about this. This was pointless and stupid.
It was so cool.
Nope.
I thought it was so cool. It's the idea that they characterized it and that they made it, not characterize it. They added like a life form. They made it into a life form. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He was shy, and it was like, "Can you make a sound?" Well, not that sound. Like, this is the one time I appreciated that guy on stage because I was like, "This is brilliant." Being able to see sound is just like, whoa! Like, I was watching this, and I was going, "Okay, the dinosaur scene was cool," but like, I would watch this over and over and over and over and over again because it is just.
It was mesmerizing.
3 minutes of a line on a screen. No, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I skipped
literally.
this too.
The variation of
I
color,
loved
the
it.
fact that you are seeing what you're hearing, and you can legit sit there and watch it and go, "This is exactly how I pictured a drum set to look. This is exactly how I pictured strings to look. Like, this is exactly how I pictured a bassoon to look." Like, I'm sitting there going, "Dang, this is cool." Like, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I got no yikes once again.
Yeah, it was literally like taking it like out of like my brain and just like putting it on the screen.
Oh.
Yep.
It was another one of those ones where it was kind of cool having that sort of like concert band sort of a background.
I'm
Yeah.
You're right. It just kind of unpacked like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
I'm starting to get the feeling that you guys are about to give this movie a higher score than Pinocchio, and I'm going to lose it.
Honestly, though, for that part, I thought it was so funny how, like, they're kind of communicating with each other. And, like, it's like the trumpet would squeak and you go, oh, that's not quite how I thought it would sound. And, like, I kind of thought that was funny, you know? So I didn't hate that part.
Well, the next section is the gods section. This one had problems.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the good things about it, I guess. Depicting Zeus and his true personality, love it. Zeus is a bastard. Actual characters, actual settings, good job, finally. I like the animals and the character designs.
But you just said finally characters and then said that the soundtrack was not a character.
That was not a character, it was a line on a screen.
That is a
Easy.
The black
it has
Pegasus,
a personality.
The black Pegasus was cool. The baby black Pegasus was cute. A good use of colors and world building. It was just good. Very pretty centaurs. Don't know why they don't have tops, but whatever. And the wine god has all of them just supplying him with wine. That's pretty cool.
Really?
Liked his vibe.
Man, that's a shtick.
And forging of lightning bolts is always cool. So this one has a fair amount of yeses from me.
About
I'll say
time.
this, and I'm not gonna hold back. So I'm sorry if this offends people, but what I noticed from a sequence that's upcoming is you mentioned don't have a top. Specifically with don't have a top, those that were pure and good representative don't have nipples, and those that were evil, poor representation have nipples. Just throwing that out there. It's interesting.
Okay. I did not notice that. I was not focusing on their nipples.
I wasn't focusing on nipples either, but then all of a sudden I was like, nipple. Like it's on screen now.
In Gavin's defense, nipple is kind of one of those things that once you see it, you can't really unsee it. So I get it. I'm not going to say that the nipple is more of a character than the line on the screen, but like
no, but again, this was the one section. This is one section that had the most yikes for me. Mythical creatures, poorly animated. Zeus and the wine god and whoever the hell else was included, poorly animated. I don't know if you noticed this, but the scene where the baby Pegasus are jumping into the water, they would
Mhm.
jump in the water one color and then pop up another color. Jump in the water one color and
Yes.
pop up another color. But it
Really?
wasn't
I,
intentional.
I caught that.
No, no, it wasn't intentional. Like it jumps in and then it's blue because then it would cut away and then it would cut back and it would be its original color that jumped into the water. It was a
Mhm.
total mistake. It was not intentional. And the only reason, and I wrote this down, it was blue went to orange, orange went to black, black went to what is my handwriting? Uh,
Hmm.
Black went to blue. But then it cuts away, and all of a sudden, the black Pegasus, baby Pegasus, is just hovering above all the rest. And then it cuts
Mhm.
back to the ones that are swimming, and they're all the original color from when they jumped in. And so it was just kind of like that was you fudged that up just a smidge. Um, as far as what was good, I did enjoy the I always love like mythology. I think I've always had a fascination with mythology, and so I did enjoy the them hitting on some of the popular aspects of mythology. That was a lot of fun. That's about it. I was bored. I was frustrated. And I was like, man, the rest of this movie has been fantastic, and your horses are different colors. This is stupid. And then once again, for whatever reason, the black Pegasus's eye was red and every other horse's eye was blue. And I was like, what is happening right now? Um, so it was just throw this section out. Keep the soundtrack, throw this section out.
David, Jenny, what'd you like about this section?
Um, to me, I'm kind of in the boat that this is probably the one that I enjoyed the least. So my yeses are minimal. I enjoyed I enjoyed the color. I feel like the color scheme was very it contrasted a lot from the other pieces. Um, but and I'm also a fan of mythology, Greek mythology, and so for me, seeing kind of a different take on it, especially Greek mythology in sort of old time Disney, because obviously we'll get to a point where we see Greek mythology portrayed in modern Disney in a much different light. Um, so getting to see how Disney animators treated Greek mythology at this point in time, I thought was super cool. But yeah, for me, it was mostly yikes for this one.
Jenny, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of saw it kind of the same way. It was cool seeing how kind of they interpreted the Greek mythology at this point, and then compared to like Hercules and how far
Yeah.
it came.
Yep.
So, I mean, that aspect was cool. I didn't love the animation as much in this one, and I feel like this one to me was longer than needed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were some cool parts of it, but I feel like overall, as much as I liked the other ones, this one just didn't hit that for me.
Did you like anything about it, Hannah?
For me, this was my trip to Snoozeville. I actually did in real life go to fall asleep during this part of the movie. It was not my favorite, but I did like the connection and the fact that it reminded me a lot of Hercules. I think the part where like they're in the sky and they're literally making the lightning bolts was just really, really cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
But like everything else, I was not vibing with. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of like sky ladies, and I thought that was very interesting. And I just kind of was, as a whole, not enjoying it, not liking the vibe, but it was all right.
Also, can we just talk about briefly
Yeah.
the over characterized stereotypical gender roles that were portrayed
Yeah, I can
in
agree
this
with that.
section?
That was
Yeah.
kind of that was something that I didn't write it down, but that was one of my yikes that I was just like
You caught on to it, yeah.
So
there was a lot of what I think what I wrote down as an all-encompassing note, not to skip ahead into yikes too quickly, but
Yeah.
was the whole vibe was just odd.
Yeah.
Yep.
With the cherubs and And yeah, and like Gavin said, the gender roles and the expectations of one side versus the other. It just there was a lot about this piece that just kind of had me turning my head a little bit. Like this is just there's nothing about it that's inherently bad-ish.
It's tasteful.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily fit with what we picture at Disney at this point.
There's some bad.
Yeah, right.
So,
I was going to say that.
So yeah, to be sure, that there is some bad.
but
Yeah,
there,
I will-
if
I will
you
say that
noticed, there is a lot of very zoomed in scenes because they had to re-edit this movie to remove a character because of how bad the stereotypes were.
Yep.
Look up Sunflower, Fantasia. She was a servant to the centaurs or whatever they were. She was of a darker complexion, had very exaggerated lips, had very exaggerated braids, and was a servant to them. But they edited it out for good reason. Not good.
It was, and there's a message before the film that says there are depictions that we as a company no longer associate as correct or right. They have the message out there, and they do acknowledge that there are aspects to this film that are not timeless. But I just, to me, it was very much like when the male centaurs entered, it just became very bad 1940s stereotypes, and I was just like, I immediately was like, oh.
And they were all exactly the same, just different colors.
Yeah,
that was exactly the part that took me out of it for this piece. I was just like,
and speaking of that, why did we need a whole segment of a centaur mating ritual?
Right.
Our choice. And like Jenny
Right.
said, this section was way too long. As many of these, way too long. Like I mentioned, more boobs in a Disney movie. That's a choice. I mean, a lot of them were covered up, but why were some of them not? That's strange.
Right.
And this is where I wrote the note. This movie makes me mad.
You can track the connection between no top and top with what happens with those characters. I'm just going to leave it at that. It's strategic as to why some of them don't have tops, and it's again very poor taste and incredibly offensive gender stereotypes. But you can definitely track and notice the trend as to which ones had tops and why, which ones didn't and why. And it's that part was not edited out. So this was the part that for me was just like, and this is the part that I would
this segment had like 6 opportunities to end, and it just didn't. It just kept going.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. It just kept going.
Are we good to move on to the next section?
Yes.
I was mentally checked out at this point, so I have very few notes for this section.
Same.
I knew which one was coming next, which is why I didn't take notes.
The first thing that I mentioned that I noticed though was this the "Hello Mother, Hello Father" from that old dog commercial?
I love that commercial.
Yeah, that's what my brain went too.
That's amazing.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
That's hilarious.
But I only have 2 good notes for this. One is those gators had straight aura. Those gators were just, they were everything. And then I liked the relationship that they showed. This was literally the only section that they built emotion at all. So that's all I have to say about
I mean, I wouldn't say at all, but they did a very good job.
Yeah.
I did not love it. I don't have any yeses, and I don't like it.
Well, look at that. My note for yikes is I'm checked out at this point.
Yeah, so was I. It was bad.
My other note says, why the heck did the elephants blow away? That was weird. That's all I have to say about this section. I just was not mentally prepared to keep watching this movie.
The ballerina section, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the hippos, the elephants, the gators,
Yes.
yeah.
I thought it was beautiful. I did. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was unique and different and fun and actually kind of got to the root of Disney animation in the sense of like it was good animation and it brought personality and emotion to otherwise um, overlooked and overlooked characters that are usually second fiddle to other or overlooked animals that are usually second fiddle to others when you think of popularity. Like I thought that was really cool that they chose like ostriches and hippos and like animals you wouldn't think of back then. You know, not the lion, the bear, the fox. It wasn't
Yeah.
the typical choice in the animal. And I thought that that was really cool. The yikes for me was, and I think this had a lot to do with the previous segment. But the yikes for me was like, okay, so you just acknowledged that you know how to make animals feminine, masculine, whatever, without it being offensive. So why can't you continue to do that consistently throughout the film? So it was like the stacking of the choices kind of threw me off because it was like this was very much classy and very personal and emotional, and you're like, oh, so you can do gender roles appropriately. Because the last one, like, go have a talk with your neighbor because that was bad. So that I think to me it stood out more than it should have because of the previous segment. But that was the only yikes I had.
We got 4 minutes left with Jenny, so we got to rapid fire these notes.
I'll keep mine for brief. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, like, how the last segment kind of like strayed away and kind of pulled away from the rest of the movie. The animation with this one, like you were saying, I felt like it was more Disney animation and kind of brought it back down to where we're supposed to be. And so it was kind of a relief after the last one to be like, oh, okay, we're back. Like, made me nervous there for a minute, but we're back.
We're good. Yeah.
So I loved the animation. I loved watching that, relationship build. Just the different animals. I thought there were just some really beautiful scenes with how they portrayed them and moved them around the screen, and just how they all, correlated to each other. I thought they did a really great job with that one, and it may have been that I liked it a lot because the last one wasn't so great. So just anything other than that was just great. But I felt like you actually kind of got to know the characters a little bit, and I thought it was a more cute one and had a little bit of the humor in there. So I thought it was well rounded.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep mine brief because I want to yield more of my time to talk about non-involvement in Ave Maria. That was my favorite segment, but to me this one actually reminded me like it was the most similar to like one of those silly symphony things with the way that they animated the hippos and the elephants reminded me similar to that of like the Three Little Pigs. The way that they animated the gators, it reminded me a lot of the way that they animated the Big Bad Wolf, just being very lengthy but bouncing around. To me, it was almost like they took that animation style and elevated it to make it look a little bit a little prettier. But I think my only yikes for this one was that I was a little bit mentally tired after this one, just because of how much we unpacked in the previous segment. But to segue into the next or into the last like combo case of Fantasia, but as mentally exhausted as I was from the other one, Night on Bald Mountain like immediately brought me back into it.
Hannah, did you have anything you left unsaid?
No, I didn't like it.
All right, the last section, Chernobog. Chernobog, I'm just going to rapid fire my notes for both sections here. Chernobog was an absolute unit, and it's amazing that a animator for Disney that we've seen in the credits, Wilfred Jackson, posed for his physique. Amazing. And like David, you mentioned Ave Maria. It's a phenomenal tune. It's a bop. It's a banger. Best song of the whole movie. The ghosts were really neat, very clever animation style, but at the same time, they lacked any depth. They were just flat. The use of colors was pretty good. The people walking through the woods was very good animation. They did a good job with that. And yikes, this whole movie didn't use a single sound effect the whole time, no matter how bad it needed it. But they decided, guess what? We need church bells for this to make sense. So
Yeah.
throw some church bells.
Yep.
If you're not going to use sound effects, don't use sound effects.
I wouldn't say that it was a sound effect though, because there are instruments that make those sounds on stage.
But is it
the
in
guy
Ave
knocked
Maria?
the guy knocked them over
But
in a previous segment.
Are those is
Literally.
that usually part of Ave Maria?
Well, that's the thing, though, is I feel like it was meant to be a transition instrument.
Hmm.
Because normally Night on Bald Mountain and Ave Maria don't go together. But if you're going to treat this as one cohesive story, then you need something to get you from here to here.
Sure.
And I feel like the church bells was a good way of doing that. But I'll talk about that more when it's my turn.
Yeah, so the last thing I have is that although the animation for them walking through the woods was great, why? No reason for them to be walking through the woods. But,
I don't have much on this section, so I'll go next. But I echo a lot of Joey's yeses. They were the animation in this was great. The intensity of this was great. You really felt the music through the animation, which was really cool. The transition of him bringing his wings in and kind of curling back in and then panning out and it's the mountaintop was just like, yeah, I lost my mind. That was brilliant. The yikes for me was it might have been to me it was a little too long.
Yeah.
It was a little you were pushing it just a little bit. And then it was such an abrupt end where they're just like, thank you so much for joining us. And that was like, okay. So that kind of was just like this was nightmare fuel. But it was really, really well done.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of notes for this. Sorry, I don't have a lot of notes for this one. I will say, the last part, it wasn't horrible to me. I just, like I said, I don't have a lot of notes. I was checked out at this point, but I mean, I didn't hate it, so I also didn't love it, but not a lot of notes for me on this one.
Yeah, for me, not a lot of notes. I thought how they did that animation was really cool, especially for that time period. It was very detailed, and just the way that it moved, and so I thought that was very well done. The transitions I really loved. I thought, it did go a little long, and so for as long as it was, for it to kind of have that abrupt ending, it was like, you didn't have to end it so abruptly. Like, you had plenty of time. So that felt a little odd.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there was like a different way that they were ending it, and at the last minute, they changed it, and that's just kind of how it happened. But it felt a little odd that they drug it out for so long, had some unnecessary parts, and then ended it like that. But other than that, I thought it was a good, little segment.
All right, David. Sorry to do this on your favorite one, but we got to hear it quick.
I'm gonna try and keep this quick. But this is to me was if you told me you had to pick a different favorite one that isn't the Sorcerer's Apprentice, I would have picked this one. To me, it was the contrast of the two pieces was what I loved. Night on Bald Mountain, visually and from an instrumental perspective, was chaotic all over the place. It was unsettling. It was scary. It was spooky. It was foreboding. And I thought it was very well done. Then you have the church bells, Turnabog retreating back into the mountaintop, and then you see just the grand scale of the mountain and how small the village is. I thought visually that was very well done. And then the church bells transitioning into Ave Maria, which was the exact opposite of Night on Bald Mountain. The colors were muted, the trees and the lanterns and the people walking were very uniform. To me, it was two completely different sides of the exact same coin. I absolutely loved it. And to me, you guys talked about how abruptly it ended and how weird that was. I thought it was weird in kind of a cool way. Like, we just did a 2-hour Disney musical session and we ended it on Ave Maria. Here's our mic drop.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see it when Dumbo comes out. Like, I absolutely loved it.
The visual of the hand, the shadow going over the village, just sticks with you. It's incredible.
All right, so
That was really cool.
Our final thoughts. We're just going to have to leave this to us giving our scores with little to no explanations. So I'll go. Legacy was the only thing that got more than a 4 in my 10 categories. So it has a 30. I gave this movie a 30. Awful, awful, awful. 30 out of 100.
Wait, you gave it a 30?
Yeah.
Wait,
are you lower?
Can you see that?
Amazing.
I gave it a 32. Okay, twins. I love that.
Outstanding.
Oh my
I feel weird actually going after 30s across the board, but I mean with Night on Bald Mountain and the animation style, I actually gave this movie a 78.
Oh my god! That's
it wasn't higher than
crazy.
Pinocchio, but I really enjoyed my viewing of this movie.
That's
Jenny?
nuts.
Oh my gosh, I love that we each, I mean, it was kind of two teams, but overall we all saw it very differently, which is going to be for every movie, but I feel like this is probably the one where it has the largest gap there. But for me, I did a 62. There were just some things that obviously tanked it, just like the message. That one was kind of lower, just how you kind of perceive the message, because I didn't feel like that was like super clear depending on how we were defining it. But I mean, legacy, music, animation, there's a lot of things that really held it up there because I really enjoyed it.
Let's hear it, Gavin.
Disney acknowledged the difference with this between cinema and movies.
I was about to give it
Cinematic experience, a cinematic experience, and a movie experience. And not only did they acknowledge that, but they also somehow bridged the gap between the two to where it was still entertaining and it was still just well done and beautiful and a great experience. I gave this an 83.
That's crazy.
Oh my
I was
god.
going to have the highest score. My goodness.
So
I
Gavin-
loved it, and the only reason it's not an A is some of the fantasy characters animation and the dude that kept standing on stage. That's literally it.
So Gavin get
And the timeless misogyny that was in there.
So Gavin guessed that he would give it an 81.
Docked it.
Jenny guessed she would give it a 70. I guessed I would give it a 30. So good going me. And Hannah, you guessed you would give it a 70. So
I know. I never seen it.
So now we have to go into our favorites and least favorites. We're just going to have to rapid fire this again. No explanations. Just say what it is. What's your favorite sequence and least favorite sequence? Mine is obviously Sorcerer Mickey's my favorite, and least favorite is the dinosaur segment.
Favorite was Night on Bald Mountain. Least favorite was the Greek mythology segment.
Sorcerer Mickey is favorite, Greek mythology least favorite.
Same as
I'll
Gavin
go
for Mickey. Oh, sorry. And then least favorite Greek
I was just going to
mythology.
piggyback and say, yeah, it's the same.
All right.
Yes.
Favorite and least favorite characters. My favorite character is Sorcerer Mickey, but Chernobog close second. And least favorite, that freaking Soundwave.
The same thing. Favorite Sorcerer Mickey, but Chernobog is incredibly close second. Least favorite, I'd probably have to give it to the weird centaurs.
Yeah.
Sorcerer Mickey, and then my least favorite are the centaurs.
Yep.
Okay, Gavin, literally same.
All right.
That's
So
exactly
now
where my head was.
favorite and least favorite song. My favorite is Ave Maria, and least favorite, I guess, whatever played during that terrible dinosaur segment.
I'm going to stay consistent. Nine on Bald Mountain was my favorite. Least favorite was I don't remember the name, but the one that they played during the Greek mythology bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably same.
My favorite. I feel like my favorite was the Nutcracker though,
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. That's my
because I
second
really
favorite.
like that one.
Be
And then my
different.
least favorite
Solid one.
Greek mythology. Yeah, literally.
All right.
I will say second least favorite for me was the Nutcracker music in there. That was the second least favorite.
That's crazy. So that's going to do it for
You're crazy for
Fantasia.
giving it a 30, okay?
That's going to do it for Fantasia. We're going to be back next week with Dumbo. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know if it's actually going to be next week though, because we got to figure out when we're going to record it. Because Jenny's going to be in Disney World. But if you want to follow us on all social medias, Poison Apple Podcast, periods in between each word. All of our socials will be linked down in the description. We don't have time to go out around and ask everyone what they are. And subscribe, follow, give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah.
See you, everybody.
See you guys. Thank you for listening.
In the shadows we gather where tales are spun. With the Poison Apple Podcast, and magic's begun. Friends watching movies, critiquing every lore. Grab some popcorn, join us and explore. Just one bite, you want more. Beware our tales are rotten to the core. Mystery and magic knocking at your door. With the Poison Apple Podcast, there's so much in store.